Thank you very much for listening to this week's talk on the Sedra of Shemini, which is the third Sedra in the book of Vayikra, Leviticus. And it is also the Shabbos, Parshas hachodesh, which is the Shabbos that is announcing the coming of the new month of Nisan. Rosh Chodesh Nisan is going to be on Tuesday, and we say the special blessings that we say on the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh, and we're saying these blessings, and we have in mind, we dedicate our learning today. And please God, the new month of Nisan that will come on Tuesday, that should be a month of redemption and Geula for all of the hostages in Gaza, and the miracle of the safety and the success of the IDF, and the healing, the refuah shalema for all of those soldiers who have been wounded. And really, as we dedicate what we're doing now and our mitzvahs, and making all of the efforts that we possibly can, so that the things that we are praying for, please God, Hashem will answer our prayers, and this becomes the focus and the hope. And in the Jewish calendar, we don't just commemorate events, we feel there's a heavenly emanation of the energy, the spiritual energy that we know that we went through on the first Pesach in the year 2448, 3,500 years ago. And please God, that spiritual energy, that special koach, that strength should be apparent, and we should feel it, we should realize it, we should actualize it, and merit to see the release of all the hostages and the safety of all of the soldiers. And we start with this the Sedra of Shemini, which is unique in many respects. The first is that it starts after a stuma. We've talked about the open and the closed gaps. So this is a closed gap, and it starts after this closed gap here, are closed in all of the texts. Usually, I mean, in all other cases, a sedra starts at the end after a whole line break. So there'll be the break, which then on a new line, the new sedra will start. Shemini is the only sedra that starts with a midline break. And really, the midline breaks are a symbol of a continuity. It's a subsection, and the connection, therefore, between the previous Sedra of Tzav and the current Sedra of Shemini. This is apparent in the graphic organization of the way it's written in the Torah. And I think the connecting themes, when we have the Sedra of Tzav, that is giving us the details of the special korbanot, the special offerings that are brought, and the mitzvot that were given to Aaron and all of the Kohanim. And this concept of tzav, of mitzvah, of binding, of connection, and the whole all of the details relating to the Mishkan, to the construction of this wonderful portable home for Hashem in the wilderness, and the various rituals and the korbanot that were going to be brought at that particular place. And when we come now to Bayom Hashmini, this is going to be the inaugural day, the day where the lights are switched on, so to speak. And so the thematic connection is something that we can understand from the content of the Sedra, and also by looking at the Sedra to see the way it starts in this unusual way after a midline break. And the content of the Sedra of Shemini seems at first sight to have two main subjects that aren't really connected. the first is the inauguration on the 8th day, which tragically ends with the death of Nadav and Avihu, two sons of Aaron. And we then, after that has happened and the way of dealing with it has been explained to Aaron and to his two remaining sons, we then have, at the conclusion of the Sedra, for the second half of the Sedra, we have the very detailed laws of kashrut, of the foods that we can eat and the foods that we have to refrain from eating. And these two subjects seem to be so disconnected, really, so very, very different. But when we look at the words, when we look at the themes of each of these events, we can see how actually we could understand how the laws of kashrut are going to help prevent the kind of disaster that happened to Nadav and Avihu. And if we look at the actual words of the Torah, we see that the beginning of the Sedra, so not quite the beginning actually, chapter 10, Vayikhu, chapter 10, verse 1, Vayikhu b'nei Aaron Nadav v'Avihu ish machtoso. And the sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, took each one their fire pan, vayitnu bahen ish vayosimu aleha ktores, and they put fire in them, and they put incense upon it. Vayakrivu livnei Hashem ish zara, and they brought near before Hashem a strange fire, asher lo tziva osam, that he had not commanded them. And although there are various different explanations given by commentators as to the exact nature of the sin, of what was wrong, the words of the Torah say quite clearly that Hashem did not command them to do this. And when we are dealing with anybody, but especially people in the exalted position of Kohanim, of the priests, then they have a very specific order that they have to follow. And Hashem is commanding, is giving them this mitzvah, which is a bind, which is a bond, which is a connector. And Hashem is giving very precise limits and actions that have to be performed as part of the divine service. And so out of this excessive love and desire to be close to Hashem, that in the spontaneity of their actions, they deviate. And in our relationship with Hashem, while we are commanded to love Hashem, which we often understand as a very spontaneous type of emotion, but we can see from here that this love has to be channeled through the mitzvot, through the things that are commanded, through the things, that Hashem wants us to do. And so when the words of the Torah state very clearly that Nadav and Avihu, at this very, very high point, when the Mishkan is being inaugurated in front of all of the people, and they do something that is not part of the order of what Hashem wants from them, then it is, I think, on an even higher level, more crucial and more damaging. And therefore, they unfortunately suffer this very tragic consequence that perhaps we could say measure for measure, just like they bring a strange fire that has not been commanded, they are consumed by fire. And we can see in the response that there is a balance, that one in a way cancels out the other in terms of what happens to them as a result of their actions. And this idea of understanding that there is a very delicate balance between spontaneity and genuine deep emotion in our service of Hashem, in our love for Hashem, but staying well within the boundaries. We find these boundaries set out in meticulous detail in the latter part of the Sedra, from chapter 11, and then all the various different categories of animals, and animals that we can't eat, animals that we can eat. And then how all of this, at the end, towards the end of chapter 11, we see things that are leading us to conclude that the concept of kashrut, of the whole notion of food that is fit for consumption, that is something that is more than just dietary, and it is a way. We're familiar with the idea today, especially with the advent of nutritional science. We are familiar with the idea of you are what you eat. But it is more than just healthy eating. It is more than just taking care of your body, respecting the resources in the world. It is a way of combining the physical and the spiritual, and avoiding the pitfalls of the intense spirituality that we see at the beginning of the Sedra with Nadav and Avihu, and then with these very clear details of the laws of kashrut, that we in the regulations see that by following exactly what Hashem commands us, we are making a tikkun, we are making a repair, as it were, for the defect that happens when Nadav and Avihu, carried away, do something that Hashem does not command them. But interesting that after the detailed resume of all of the laws of kashrut, or that we read in this week's Sedra, verse 44 in chapter 11 says, Ki ani Hashem Elohechem, because I am the Lord your God, v'his kadishtem, and you shall sanctify yourselves, v'yisem kadoshim, and you will be holy, ki kodesh ani, because I am holy, v'lo sitamu es nafshosechem, and you will not make your souls tomei, b'chol hasheretz haromesh al haaretz, through any creeping thing that creeps on the earth. And we see a progression here, that first, this word, v'his kadishtem, that you should make yourselves holy. This is a reflexive form of the verb. And this is showing us that we have been given the tools. We've been given at the beginning of the Sedra the clear event of what happened to Nadav and Avihu when they don't do as what they have been commanded. And we then have all of the laws that tell us what we can and can't eat. And then we have to work that through. We have to make ourselves holy. It's not something that Nadav and Avihu can do for us. That's not something that Hashem can do for us. It's something that we need to invest the effort and the energy. We need to take our way of self-control. We need to know that by being very careful about what goes into our mouths, that is not just going to affect us physically, that is going to affect us spiritually as well. And it'll be a combination of the discipline that we have to follow when we abstain from certain foods, we abstain from certain combinations of foods, that the laws of eating kosher food are very intricate and complex. But it is in the keeping of those laws, in the study of those laws, that we gain an extra spiritual sensitivity. And a very important part of the philosophy and practice of the Torah, of Judaism, is this combination between physical and spiritual. It's not that when we're being spiritual, we are abstaining from all kind of physical pleasures, and it's not that when we're indulging physically, we can just let everything go. But we are constantly achieving this balance of elevating the physical and bringing down the spiritual, and in this way combining and making them meet and lifting ourselves up as human beings. And really, this is something that comes through so clearly with the two apparently unconnected main subjects of this week's Sedra. And then if we carry on towards the end of the Sedra, we'll see, this is the Maftir, verse 45, chapter 11. Ki ani Hashem hamala eschem me'eretz Mitzrayim, because I am Hashem who brings you up from the land of Egypt, lios lachem lelohim, to be a God to you, v'yisem kadoshim ki kodesh ani, you shall be holy, for I am holy. And as we go towards the festival of Pesach, and there are so many eating related commandments that are part of Pesach, whether it's the commandment to eat the paschal lamb, whether it's the commandment to eat matzahs, and we are coming out of Mitzrayim, we are coming out of Egypt, and Egypt is associated with the Egypt that the Torah describes is associated with excess, with lack of control, with hedonism, with immorality. And we are establishing, by keeping the precepts, by keeping the mitzvahs of the Torah, we are establishing a very different path. It is not about excess, it's not about doing exactly what we want to do when we want to do it. We have the discipline, we have the structure, and this is very apparent in the discipline and the structure of the laws of kashrut, and that is a way to counteract what happens when you just substitute your own desires and not refer to what we have been commanded. And really, the path to holiness is through the observance of these intricate laws. And this is something that can elevate us and refine us as individuals and as a nation. And as we go towards the new month of Nisan, as we go towards the festival of Pesach, we relive the concepts that made us a nation, that continue to make us a nation. And please God, in this way, we will merit to see the Geula, we will merit to see the redemption that we saw when we came out of the land of Egypt in the year 2448. And please God, we should merit the Geula, the redemption that we need in our time now, and in the merit of learning the Sedra of Shemini and combining all of these themes and ideas, that we should reach this higher level. Thank you very much for listening, and wishing everybody Shabbat Shalom.